Good morning, Mr. Salama. How you doing today?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, world. How are you?
We're enjoying the weather finally.
84 degrees in New York. How about that?
I know, yeah, it's nice, and we're in fun week, so we get a little bit of a break.
There you go. There you go.
All right, so it looks like we're all good and live here. Awesome. So today we have an interesting show for you. I hope it's an extension of actually one of my favorite storm team planners, which is authority versus influence. Um, we're not going to go that direction, though. We're actually just going to take the title and go a different direction. Uh, so when we think about marketing our schools, and Skillz is not a marketing platform, but it is something that we're business owners too. We have to do it every day and interact with our vendors, and you got to know enough about what's happening in your business to make sure that things are kosher and copacetic. So normally when we think about marketing, we think about niching down, setting ourselves apart, making sure that everybody knows why I'm different from the guy down the road, and knowing what my service area is so I don't waste money on ad spend to people that won't drive the extra 3 minutes. And it's a really challenging thing for a small local business to demand a big audience. So what we want to talk about today are some ways that you can ignore that, not completely because it still does have to be part of your overall marketing plan, but to look beyond it perhaps and see a bigger way to magnify what's happening. So there's two parts of this. One is authority marketing and one is influencer marketing. So see how we tied in that authority versus influence. So we'll talk about authority marketing first, and this is something that I think John and I both do pretty well just by nature of our roles in Skillz. Authority marketing is this idea that even though we're trying to harvest a small local audience, that small audience will be better drawn to us if we are an authority within our industry. Now, our industry is not in our town. Our industry is global. So when you start to look at authority marketing, just doing this show is authority marketing for John and I. We're out there on a national platform, or Skillz is an international platform. And I have even neighbors that say, wow, I saw you on that show that you do speaking to all the schools. That was fantastic. Can you tell me about your school? So the idea of authority marketing isn't about talking to the small audience. It's about becoming the expert, something that
Yep.
we want you to do in Skillz already. So John, I know that you guys also have a step up with Skillz. Just doing this show and with Jennifer's blogs are hitting all over the world. Hopefully everybody's putting her attribution on there the right way, because it does make her part of the team for the school. So what are some things on a bigger level that you have going on?
We like to tap into the a market that's really missed out on. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't see therapy offices as a market to hit, when in actuality, it's a huge market to hit. And again, we've got that quote unquote authority concept, right? Simply because we work with a lot of parents who have children, and even some of the adults who are, I don't want to say suffering, but they have certain needs that needs to be met. And we're able to meet those needs by doing things slightly different. So it's not necessarily like a live episode like this, but we do like to tap into those offices, talk to those owners, talk to the therapists there, and getting an idea of what's happening in the market now, that we can make sure that we are up to speed or up to date on what needs to be done.
Yeah, and that's interesting because usually when you think about like wider audience, people automatically think geography, right?
Yeah.
So like I've had some opportunities to have a geographically large audience, and we'll chat about those too. But what John's introducing here is this concept of getting out of our own funk, kind of, you know, I did my presentation down at MegaCon about how about 2% of the population is interested in martial arts, and half of
Mhm.
those are already involved. And when you can broaden your audience a little bit, instead of just speaking to people that want martial arts, John gets to speak to people that just need help.
Yep.
And that's a far wider, bigger audience to speak to. And then, through John's expertise, he's able to then steer that conversation when appropriate back to his school. And I'm sure you've been doing this for a while with Spectrum now, and things like that. I'm sure your name gets thrown around a little bit just because of those relationships.
I mean, just a few times. I mean, again, Jennifer's got a master's degree in psychology. She specializes in child development and parenting. I don't have a degree in psychology, but I'm blessed enough to have a wife that does, that I've learned a lot through. But also, we've got the Skillz concept and the Skillz methodology that taught us a lot, as we are learning the step-by-step process of how children learn and grow, right? And then, coming out with the Spectrum Skillz format, that's a market that, not many martial arts schools tap into, you know. But why not? Like, why can't we?
Yeah, and it's, in essence, it's the same reason that we like our members to leverage the Skillz brand. When you're the local martial arts school, you could be the best martial arts school in the whole world, but you're still the local martial arts school.
Hmm.
Um, when you start doing like the co-branding with Skillz, now you become part of this community. And the people doing this really well, actually, that I'm seeing now are our new ambassadors who are leveraging the Skillz brand to add to their own authority in their own communities. So their communities don't necessarily know about or care about Skillz, but when they say, hey, out of 1,100 or 1,200, however many schools we have now, we were chosen to be the brand ambassadors. Wow, I didn't know you were part of something so big. What's that? And now people are likely to go look up and see what Skillz is about, and then take all of that credibility that's already been built and associate it with your smaller school. Um, one of the opportunities that I recently had was to do a ton of podcast interviews in the health and fitness industry, in parenting industries, in business podcasts that spoke to a far wider audience than I could ever hope to speak to alone, in my school marketing. And even though I'm not going to enroll most of the people that heard those podcasts, they live in Europe or California or Canada. Now, anytime somebody says, well, what can you tell me about your school, or what do I need to know about you to make a decision? Hey, you mind if I send you a link to a podcast I did that speaks about that? Wow, you were on this big podcast, or I got interviewed and it got picked up by NBC. It's only on their website, it's not on TV, but now I get to
Yep.
say, I was on NBC. I'll send you the
Yep.
link to that interview. These big things give me authority that I can now leverage in my local interactions. And I actually got that idea from John when we were driving down to Florida, where he was just shooting people like links to, hey, you mind if I send you this blog post? Hey, do you mind if I send you this? So I thought that was a fantastic idea. So now I do that same thing just with some of these bigger endeavors that I've been working on. So thank you
Yeah.
for
I
that, Mr.
mean,
Salama.
oh, you're welcome. I think a lot of people, when they hear the word authority, they totally they don't think of it as how we use it, right? They think of it of the other
Yeah,
definition of authority, right?
authority,
Yeah, yeah,
like
no,
Cartman.
yeah, no, it's like, definitely look at the word authority as, what can you do to help out? How can you set yourself apart from everybody else? And that's the whole like concept in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean the root word is author.
Yep.
If think of it this way, are you an authority? Is the same thing as asking, could you write the book on this? Whether writing is one of your talents, just hypothetically speaking, could you write the book on this? Who do you want to write the book? The guy on your high school football team or Tom Brady? Which book are you more interested in? We want the authority on the national level to come teach our local PAL football. So that actually leads right into, if I'm asking Tom Brady to write a book to help me with my local football team, this leads us into influencer marketing. We want to leverage people who already have authority to talk about our brands. Anytime I talk about my school, oh, Mike's talking about his business again. Doesn't he ever take time off? Well, no, I don't. But when other people start to talk about it, it hits a little differently. Word of
Hmm.
mouth is really, really powerful. Now, my antelopes in my school talk about me, but probably 80% of your school and my school, they just, they love it, but they just go about their business. They don't seek out opportunities to talk about your business. It's something they pay for, they get it in return. So with influencer marketing, our goal is to find the people, usually in our communities, who already have authority and influence, and then get them to talk about your products. You see this a lot on YouTube, TikTok, where people are actually paying athletes and content creators to promote their stuff. But we can scale that down. Who are the people in your immediate neighborhood that have influence? Doesn't matter what genre. So, we live right on the border of an incorporated village. So we have a mayor and trustees. I tend toward education. So we have some teachers that are pretty well known and well respected in our districts. I have a lot of friends who have gone on to bigger and better things in the world. They're working in government or whatever. If I can get these people talking about my business, that carries authority because of their influence. Um,
Absolutely.
so there's a couple ways we could do this. It could be a flat out business proposition. Hey, Mr. Salama, I know you run Skillz headquarters. Next time you're in New York, could you just stop by and take a class and then make a TikTok video about it? I'll pay you $100. TikTok video is 1 minute long. Like I got to teach the class anyway. So now I get to leverage that, and it's just like buying a cameo. Is that what it's called? Cameo, where you can get the
Yeah.
actors and stuff to say happy birthday. Another way to do it is to have somebody in your neighborhood who has influence, bring them in for some free classes in exchange for documenting their journey. Um, so with this in mind, let's brainstorm some people in our community that might be really good fits as influencers. Um, so I already mentioned the mayor, a couple of teachers. I'll throw this one out. The PTA president or the PTA officers, bring them in for a free fundraiser or class. And it's not about, normally we would do this like so that we could get in the back door into the schools. Just do it to give it to them and say, hey, what I would like you to do is just document your journey over these 4 weeks of class that I'm giving you. It's an agreement and they have to complete it. But in return, how powerful is that to have a PTA president saying, wow, this place is great? Um,
Yeah,
do your therapy offices chat about you?
of course. I mean, our concept is we go in there free of charge, and we'll work in that office for maybe once a month or twice a month. Nothing big, nothing huge, right? But it's enough to create that connection, and they see the influence that we have on the kids when we're working with them, or on the teens when we're working with them, right? And we don't go in there expecting anything in return. We don't go in there expecting the parents to come and sign up. There is zero expectation. Okay. When you're doing stuff like this, you're doing it like because it's got a different gratification. You know what I mean? But yet, in the long run, if something comes of it, great. For us, we were able, through just the craziness of connection, if craziness is the right word, we were able to connect with a national office US wide that allows to pay for some of the people on the spectrum, or they have certain money allocated so parents don't have to pay for classes or stuff like this. And when people hear about it, they're like, and how do I get in touch with this office? Oh, here's the information.
That's cool. And not everybody runs like a spectrum skills or a special needs program. I think one of the things to remember in an instance like this is that the influence goes beyond just that child that's in therapy. Even if that's not your thing, and you're just doing it altruistically, they have siblings, cousins, friends.
Mm-hmm.
The parents have friends who have
Friends.
kids.
Yep.
So it ripples out through the community.
Yep.
So Tim
Um,
says he's got two social workers and a psychologist as parents in his school. So those would be great influencers. Obviously they're in your school, so we want to foster them as antelopes as well. But even if you can get them to, throw them a free month of class in exchange for, and you have to be kind of specific about what it's in exchange for, not just, hey, could you say something about my school? Because that gets like a Facebook post, and that's nice. But I want something I can repurpose, that I can put on
yes.
social media, put on YouTube, put on my website. So saying, hey, what I want you to do is give me 4 videos, one at the end of every week, about what your child experienced in class. Make the videos about a minute to 2 minutes long, and here's how I want you to submit them. And at the end of that, I'll credit you for a free month. So something like that. And now you can start to leverage their degrees, even though they're not working for you. I know one of the social workers is, but even though the others aren't working for you, now they're speaking about you, maybe not directly to their people, which would be more affiliate marketing, but just in general as
Mm-hmm.
professionals. It carries a lot of weight behind it.
Exactly. One of the things that I think every school owner should do is know their student body well enough to a point that you know what each parent does for a living. Okay. And it doesn't have to be like a questionnaire. It doesn't have to be where you're, out there and we've got a spreadsheet and people have to write down what they do for a living, because that's a little tacky, right?
Mm.
Some way, somehow, like you're out there talking to the parents, letting them know about the mat chat that you're discussing. Find a way where parents will tell you what they do for a living. Okay. And you can definitely leverage that concept. Okay. Kind of like you're talking about, finding out if they are part of the PTA, right? Or if they're a school principal, right? Or if they're on the administrative team somehow. Like, find a way that you can leverage your parents, help them become the antelope, right? And have them go out there and do what they do best. And let's face it, I have not met a parent who doesn't like to brag about the child,
Oh, yeah.
right? So that right there, that alone, you can just go sit out there and say, Mike, have you seen your child? Like, look at what they're doing right now. Do you remember when they started like 3 weeks ago? Or do you remember when they started a month ago? And you were talking about how like they can barely do a squat or barely do a push-up. They're doing 5 now, right? Take a picture of that and show it to them after class. Automatically, parents will get their phone out, they're going to take a picture of it, and they're not going to just show it to the child after class. I've realized most parents will take it and post it, slap it on Facebook right away. And I only have one rule, one small, tiny rule in the studio. If you take pictures in our studio, if you just do us a solid and tag us in it, that's it.
Yeah. And like, this is when you talk about influencer marketing like this, it's an extension of the same processes that you would have for just getting a Google review. You're just kind of formalizing it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just like that one-time event of here's the picture and tag us, it becomes now, hey, your job, our relationship is such that every week you're going to do this
Mm-hmm.
and say something. It just formalizes things that are already happening so that you can enhance their effect. Um, One other thing to consider is like we talk often about social workers, psychologists, PTOT, things like that, because they resonate with what we already do in class. And it's a very easy crossover for me to walk into a PTOT and say, hey, we work on physical development this way. We're working on intellectual and behavioral modification this way. They just get it, and I don't have to have a conversation beyond that. But that doesn't mean you should discount every other profession. We have some parents who their job is they got what's it called, a cricket machine that does like the vinyl and they make
Hmm.
coffee mugs or whatever. That's their job. But you know what? They know everybody in town. That is influence. They don't have to be a doctor or a psychologist. They just have to have influence. Um, and because they're a parent, they're influencing other parents through everybody likes them. Like when I say the mayor, I mean, we literally have a mayor. In fact, we have two, one on each side. But then you always have that person in town that everybody calls the mayor. They just know everybody. That's the person that you want influencing. It doesn't matter what their profession is. And I'd even say that you could probably, you'd have to be very clear with the parents, but you could probably leverage certain kids in your area too. If you have like a sports based school, like the school where I grew up, everybody knew who was on the soccer team and the baseball team. Everybody knew. Now imagine if fast forward several years later,
Hmm.
if I had the ability to take this guy, Chris Carlson, who everybody knew, he ended up being like one of the best baseball players that came out of our state from our tiny school. Imagine if I offered Chris Carlson a free month of class just to see how it would impact his baseball ability and if he could document it on social media. I mean, social media back then was just hanging out up in the woods. But you know, if I could take this idea of somebody that's the captain of the football team that getting ready in the preseason comes to your school for your Skillz Fit class. Maybe he's 17, 18 years old, comes for Skillz Fit, gets himself into shape, and has the best season ever. And talks about how, because of Skillz Fit, I was able to do this. Of course, with schools and stuff like that, you do have to be careful. You know, especially if they're like playing in college, they're not really allowed to have endorsements or stuff like that. So you just have to be pretty careful about it. But all the other kids look up to that person. So now you have kids of an age to make decisions about where they want to train or what they want to do. That's who's influencing them. Um, I would also say, like, there are YouTube influencers who will talk about your brand for free. I'm not really sure how to leverage that specifically, but you could work
So,
on that.
um, I mean, yeah, of course, you just got to find the right person, right? Another type would be cross marketing in a very smart, strategic way. So we've got a new place that just opened right next to us. When I say right next to us, I don't mean like next door. You know, I'm talking about like a couple of miles away, and it's called Green Juice. And everything that they have is like organic, holistic, you know, protein based, you know, things of that sort. And because we also offer health and wellness in our studio, it was a great opportunity to go to them and talk to them about what we do, about our programs and everything. And without me having to say anything at all, he was like, hey, you know, would you take some of our flyers and bring me some of your flyers? And if your customer just simply come and say, like Atlanta Skillz, you know, I'll give them the 10% discount or whatever. I really like the fact what you guys are doing, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, again, those people will talk about you without you having to talk about them. And I was like, um, Kyle, would you do me a solid? And he was like, what? I was like, why don't you bring your son in and come and, you know, just do a month of class free of charge. Just come in and try it out. And, you know, right then and there, like I really don't have to do much work.
Yeah, and even just like you said, giving out a piece of swag, you know, like that
Yeah.
T-shirt or something.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There are guys. Um, I think I used to find them on like Fiverr, which is kind of a global atmosphere now. But you used to be able to find guys right in your area that would walk around on the beach with your website, you know, tattooed on them, and you would pay like $5 per day for them to walk around with a tattoo on their back. I mean, it's a little more like guerrilla marketing than
Yeah.
influencer marketing. But imagine somebody like that if you did it as a fundraiser. So maybe your local sports team or something like that, or maybe uh, like a supply drive for school. Um, Whichever teacher uh, you know puts the Skillz Ninja on their arm for a day and walks around where people can see it, they'll get entered into, this supply drive or something like this, where now it's things I already do in my school. We already do fundraisers, we already do supply drives. But now if I could start to find an ethical way that doesn't violate people's work contracts, because the purpose is not to get them in trouble, but to find a way for them just to somehow subtly support my brand through their authority and influence, that becomes now powerful and usually free. Not always, but usually free.
I mean, a backpack with the Skillz logo on there, and underneath it, it would just simply say Atlanta Skillz. I don't even have to put .com. Like, I seriously don't. Why? Because if they just simply look up Atlanta Skillz, it's going to pop up. But with the PTA, they're always looking for backpacks and supplies, like you're saying, for some of the unfortunate kids. You know what I mean? And having that backpack, you're going to get it for what, $10? The logo is going to cost you an additional $1 or say $2. If you're going to shell out $300 or $500 to the PTA, just go ahead and get $500 worth of backpacks and put it out there.
Absolutely. Now, I guess the grand poobah of all of this would be if you could find a way to leverage both authority on a grand scheme and influencer marketing to target that authority to your business. That would be awesome. Usually this is a little harder to do because people who have national authority, who are influencers, know that they have authority and that they're influencers, and they charge very well for that. So if you wanted, well, I'm going to date myself a little bit here. If you wanted Lawrence Taylor to talk about your PAL football team, you'd have to pay Lawrence Taylor a little bit. And for those younger people, Lawrence Taylor was the man back in like the 90s. All the younger people are like, who's Lawrence Taylor?
I know. I feel old now.
I know, right? But there are opportunities. Sometimes you just come across, the things align. We have Dr. Michael Hines, was the superintendent of our local school district, is now a national figure in the education realm. His cousin runs the other school in town. So every now and then on his national educator platform, he plugs his cousin's school. I'm sure the cousins are not paying for that. So sometimes you just need to find the people in your circle already, because they know you, like you, respect you. They might throw you the solid. Sometimes
Absolutely.
you will have to pay for it, and paying for it is not the end of things either. It's an investment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So in the home stretch here, our mission for you guys is to find two opportunities. One is, I'm going to work it backwards. For the influencers, find somebody in your circle or in your town who is an influencer, who has those 5,000 friends on their, local friends on their Facebook page, who has, maybe they run the YouTube channel that talks about your town or city. Find those influencers and see how you can work together with them. And two is to build your own national authority. Start a podcast, start a show just like this one. Get yourself interviewed for the newspaper, even if it's a countywide or statewide newspaper. Send out press releases to the news. These big authority things will channel back to you, and it will impact everything that you do on your micro local market.
Absolutely.
And then don't forget to tag us when you get those results, because we would like to also help with your ability to have influence and authority. All right. We hit that 30-minute mark exactly. Look at that. All right, cool. All right. So any final words, Mr. Salama, on the idea of authority and influence?
Yeah, don't shoot from the hip. Plan it out. And make sure whatever you're going to talk about and discuss is like something that your clients or something that your area would understand. Don't speak $50 words. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to lose them. You want to make sure that you speak down to the level, kind of like when we use Skillz and we use the Skillz blog, or when Jennifer writes the Skillz blogs. Like, one thing I like about her blogs, or I actually love about her blogs, is I can understand it. It's very simple, yet the information is clear.
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the benefits of having an influencer do it. They're already speaking to the audience that you want, and they've probably done a lot of research, even if it wasn't mindful research. They've done some figuring about how to talk to those audiences. Your job is to be crystal clear about what you need from them and how they can do it.
Exactly.
All right. You are quite welcome, Miss Mercedes. I hope you enjoyed today's show. We will see our tribe on Monday back in the Skillz group for our executive session, and then we will be back here next Wednesday with something new and exciting.
Yes.
All right, everybody,
guys.
go get it.
Peace.